Solo, molto mi mahetano bilohazalien. Vada io di non fece regia lodi, quattro redes, ugo lehe, yaisam. Akadem oho rela kaba pire, das zogin nuris saji tag, erem yadanahe.
Hello and welcome to those who found their way here. I'm sitting here in Pöstlingberg Castle above the smoking furnaces of Linz, the steel city of Austria as it is called. And today I'm here with Barbie B from Institution D.O.L to discuss his two concept albums, the Thelema Tales and Agape 93, released on Edged Circle Productions. These albums are about Edward Alexander Crowley. So Barbie, tell me why Crowley?
For this I have to go far back in the past. I was a kid, little boy, already able to read, and I found a book in my parents' house. I brought it with for the interview today. So, this is the book.
Okay, die Faszination des Unfassbaren.
Yeah, can you translate it in English? My English
It's
is too bad.
the fascination of what can't be grasped, I would say, but it's a very casual way to put it.
Yeah, and it's one of these let's say, science books what were in the households in the 70s, 80s. Yeah, and again I was able to read and I found...
Oh, witchcraft, astrology.
Yeah. You see all these pictures, they were absolutely fascinating.
I remember a similar childhood fascination I had with the shrunken heads from Borneo jungle.
Okay, I see, yeah.
It was also a book like this at my grandaunt's house.
I read this and if I remember right, I was very irritated due to the text.
Yeah, I guess it's not what 10-year-olds usually read.
Actually not. I don't will mention the details. So, where is he? Where is he? Edward Alexander, where are you? Okay, give me some time, I will find. Yes, okay, I continue. I was reading it, and since then, actually, this theme came up from time to time all over the years, and meanwhile decades. Yeah. So, here we are. So, and the article is called The Pervert Tricks of Aleister Crowley. And and I read about the Thelema Abbey in Sicily. Yeah, so this was my first, let's say, contact.
Okay. So, how did you react to this? Would you say that it's changed how you grew up or who you
No.
became?
It didn't change anything, but it's let's say several interests developed. Let's say developed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And first of all, please let me very clearly declare, when we're talking about these two concept albums, for me it's very important, it has nothing to do with any kind of glorification.
Yeah.
It's just
it's influenced by Aleister Crowley, but not worshipping him.
Not at all. No. I always say I wouldn't be his friend, and I don't want to be his friend. Probably.
Yeah. We don't know him, so.
Yeah, genau. So, who knows? It could be on the other side. Who knows? It could be the best friendship of the world. But to underline it again, it is no glorification. It's fascination, and it's reading all these aspects what comes with this topic.
But it had enough influence on you to make you undertake a very special journey.
Yeah. This is correct. This is correct. It was in 2015. Yeah. I visited a friend in Cologne, and my former partner, my ex-girlfriend, she was with me there. And we quickly, very quickly decided, let's go to Sicily.
Just for the record, did Institution D.O.L already exist back then, or?
Sure. It was 2015.
Yeah, okay.
Institution D.O.L is existing since 1997.
Oh wow! Shame on me.
No problem. No. And I already worked with the Aleister Crowley topic for formal releases.
So did you go there with Institution D.O.L in mind, or was it more of a personal journey?
Primarily, it was a personal thing. Yes. My friend from Cologne, for him it wasn't the goal going to the Abbey or let's say looking for the Abbey. He was interested in Sicily.
Okay.
And the area
did you know that you were going to the Abbey?
Sure, I knew this very well.
So you broke this surprise to him when you were there?
No, he knew about the Abbey, but he was not that interested in it than I was. Yeah. So it was a pilgrim travel. We arrived in Palermo, and Cefalo it takes 1 hour from Palermo to Cefalo. So, if I remember right, it was the first day. No, I think it was the second day of our stay there.
Mm-hmm.
When my former partner and me started early in the morning, searching the Abbey. And before we heard, it's so easy, you only have to go to the blah, 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 soccer stadium and so on. Then it's on the right, on the left, and you will find it.
I guess it's not easy to find because it doesn't look like a special religious place or anything.
Not at all. Meanwhile it's a ruin.
It's a lost place.
Yeah.
Bad condition.
Very bad condition. It already has been in 2015. Yeah. So we started our search. It was goddamn hot this day, and we nearly stopped it at around midday. We ran around there, here, and yes, the soccer stadium is a point what is important.
Yeah.
It's close to the
landmark that.
yeah. But I don't know how often we passed the soccer stadium also out of order. Yeah.
So is it in the outskirts of the town? Could you say that?
Yeah. Not far away from the center.
I imagine a rundown area where there is no shops or restaurants nearby.
No. But at the same time, it's quite close to the center. Yeah. Okay. I'll try to bring it to tell the story a little bit faster. Around midday, suddenly my ex-girlfriend said, it was she, yeah. Here it is. Hey, come on, we've been here more than 3 times, but we haven't seen her. Okay, she recognized the Abbey, and yeah, then we visited it.
So how can I imagine it to look inside?
If you don't know anything, if you don't know anything about the history of the building, honestly, it is not very
So there's the furniture, the interior, any cult items have long been removed, I guess.
The original furnitures, yeah, very probably. And the stuff what you see inside, the furniture, this is, I suppose some visitors brought it over the decades.
Yeah. I guess it has been a pilgrim site for some.
Yeah, for ages. Yeah, let's say decades. Most one of them in the pop culture, one of the most popular persons is Kenneth Anger. He visited the Abbey already in the 50s.
Wow.
Yeah. And he tried to was heißt Freiling?
Unearth, I don't know.
Yeah, the nowadays you don't see the original paintings. The paintings are overpainted.
Oh, did he try to restore it?
Not restoring, but bring it back on the surface. Yeah. So okay, then in the one of my biggest influences, the British band Coil, Peter Christopherson and John Balance, they also visited the Abbey, and of course probably dozens of freaks from all the subcultures, at least subcultures, from the total range of...
I guess there are a few people who are as notorious as Aleister Crowley, maybe. There are a few people who just have this cult status in subcultures, like Charles Manson. Or, I don't know, maybe...
and that's what I wanted to mention before, and then to express. I don't glorify anything here.
So I heard that you recorded some sound samples there that can be heard on your 2 albums. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I did field recordings from the place where he lived, and where he and the places he visited with his followers, where he did he celebrated the ceremonies and so on. We arrived in Cefalo, and in my mind there was only the Abbey. Okay, we had an apartment. It was inside a rock, but it is not a. It's not a rock. It's the. I don't know the English term for what the sea is building up over the thousands and 10,000s, millions of years.
Yeah.
And then in the end, so meanwhile, it's also called in the Italian language La Rocca.
Oh, yeah. There are many La Rocca in different Italian towns, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they call it just La Rocca. So, and our
maybe it just means the rock.
Yeah. I guess. And yeah, and believe it or not, the number of our apartment was 23. And
well chosen, or was
no,
coincidence?
it was never. I didn't choose. This was incidentally. Yeah. So, and I stayed at the apartment, and then the apartment manager came. So, and he started a nice small talk, and how do you do, and do you like it here, and everything okay, and what is the reason why you're visiting Cefalo, and is it a wedding journey? I said, no, it's not a wedding journey. And he stood in front of me, and I think he asked, "Is it whatever?"
Yeah.
And then there was a pause, a short break. And then, as good as out of the blue, he said, "Are you a Satanist?" I started smiling and said, "No, I'm not." But yeah, I told him I'm on the search of a building. I didn't assume that he is familiar with the Thelema Abbey.
But he obviously had some subculture people going there for the Abbey.
Yeah, this guy totally surprised me because he gave me tips, insights, recommendations.
The directions to the
This
Abbey,
was-
or no?
Pardon?
The directions to the Abbey.
I think he already knew that I've been there, but the really important thing is he said, yes, the Abbey is nice, yeah, you can go there, but you have to go to La Rocca. And then I asked, okay, and why? And then he explained me in an amazing way. This guy was totally educated with Elastic Raleigh, and he's now you go to the La Rocca because Elastic Raleigh, most of the things happened on La Rocca.
Is it outdoors, I guess, or is it?
But the La Rocca is the
hill. Cave. No, the cave.
No, not the cave.
Not
It's
the
the mountain.
Okay. It's the mountain.
Yeah, you have to go up to a mountain.
Okay.
And then this took time
To find what?
to find several historical places from different cultures, from the Phoenicians to the Romans, the Greeks, and so on. And so it crossed paths.
Yeah. So
all this.
many different cultures.
Yeah, and these temples Elastic Raleigh used for ceremonies.
I see.
Yeah.
So maybe Crowley didn't choose this town out of nowhere. Yeah, maybe.
No. He was
maybe
very.
it was because of this. work.
Yeah. Of course, he was absolutely informed about. For him, it was a place on a very high energetic level. For him, this was the right place. Yeah, good. But coming to an end, due to this recommendation going up to the mountain, this was very important in relation to the Abbey, let's say. Yeah.
So.
And at Taroka, I took some film recordings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this where you recorded the crickets?
Yes. And yeah. And some other sounds from Cephalo. There was a very heavy rain set in, and I also recorded the. I know it sounds boring, but for me it was important. And
Not to me. I love rain.
Yeah, but it just was the original rain from Cephalo and the original lightning sounds. Yeah.
I think it's important though, because every place in the world has its own feeling, you know. And
probably sounds different.
And only if you have the authentic material from this place, it can be fed through the music.
For me, this was very important in inside of authenticity.
I'm not an English pro either. So you released this on CD first, I think.
Yeah.
The Thelema Tales.
I released it on my label.
Did you always know it were going to be 2 albums, or
no?
Was that a later decision?
No, for me it was actually an on-off thing.
Okay, because it fits perfectly with the 2 concepts of Thelema and Agape.
Yeah, but I didn't know at the time that there is the Agape.
Okay.
For me, it was fulfilled with the Thelema Tales.
So it can stand on its own. You don't need both in connection for them to work.
I just didn't know about the Agape.
Yeah.
That is that important. And so for viewers and listeners, the Thelema is the will. This is the yin. And the Agape is the love. And in an overviewing Crowley's work, this is the yin to the yang.
Yes, they are connected.
Yeah. So and then the thing is round. Makes it round and complete.
Well, then I'm glad you did the second album.
Yeah, and I have to mention it was Wolfgang, the piano player, and my former piano teacher. When I was a young boy, he was my piano teacher. And one day, probably he called me, or we met, and he mentioned there's a missing thing. In the beginning I wasn't sure if it's that important. But the more I read about, I let Wolfgang know, man, we have to do.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
Me either. Yeah.
But how did this first CD-only record get on such a beautiful vinyl like I see standing back there?
This happened because I got an email But I didn't read it. I received. I knew I have it. I read it. What is the English term for oberflächlich?
Superficially.
Okay, and I read the subject and the sender, but what is the word?
You only read it superficially.
Yeah. I treated the mail superficially.
Because you didn't know the sender, so
Yeah.
as spam.
And this was in 2021. And one day or one evening, I read it again,
Yeah.
and then I recognized, man, okay, this is the email. Now so reading it carefully. Okay. A label from Norway wants to release it as vinyl.
Wow, you must have been surprised.
Yeah, in the beginning it sounds actually too good to be true.
Okay.
in my eyes and ears.
So that was Edge Circle Productions.
Pardon?
So that was Edge Circle
Yeah,
Productions.
that was Edge
Yeah.
Circle.
I'm actually surprised that they were interested in this power electronics
Me too.
stuff, because they are mostly known for the underground metal scene.
Yeah, but these two concept albums are not typically industrial music.
Yeah, they are not even typical for Institution D.O.L.
On the other side, what is typically?
It seems quieter to me in a way.
Yeah, because noise doesn't fit for this. It's very experimental, and it was a total joy working with Wolfgang and regarding to the Agape release with Arnold. And was really, again, a total joy. We did it with passion. And it took a lot of time. Yeah. Making it coming to the result, what we have now. Exactly, released it on vinyl. They did a fucking great job. I have it here. If you see these guys, they worked very professional, very precise. Also the communication, dry, precise, and the manufacturing of the vinyl is, you see, this is perfect.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
This is quality stuff.
It looks amazing.
Also the vinyl itself, if you watch carefully, so here we are.
Wow, yeah.
The manufacturing.
It's really something.
This is.
And these are all photos from the Abbey, I guess.
Yeah, this is a picture what I made. A wall painting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, this was the Thelema Tales release, and for me it is very important to to talk about what happened afterwards.
Can we go on?
Because there, as good as nothing happened afterwards. You remember, I guess you remember very well that then in 2021, this so-called pandemic
Yeah.
came. And the world got crazy. For myself, I had to lay my focus on different things. As good as no communication with Edge Circle, from my side.
Many of us had a hard time then, just trying to scrape by and not get lost in depression.
For me, it was not a hard time, but just my focus were on other things.
Yeah.
And I stopped communication with H30. So let's jump to 2023 or 24, when Wolfgang and me already started with recordings for the Agape release.
We just moved to the terrace to enjoy the view over Linz. Barbie, would this be a good place to talk about Agape 93?
There's no bad place for this. Again with Wolfgang, I started. And as I told before, I contacted Edge Circle again and asked them if they're eventually interested, and they explained why we did this, and this is their second and final, the completing part. And I appreciated very, very much that they were open for the second release.
So, early last year, 25, we were approached by Barbie again, telling us that there was going to be a follow-up to the previous Thelema Tales. So obviously this was something which we were very interested in, since we did already the first one. So it would be strange to turn it down and have someone else put it out. And we knew it was going to be something different. So, and it was. It even tops, I would say, in atmosphere and approach the previous one. Also, the finished product on vinyl was beautiful, with a scarlet vinyl, scarlet red artwork on the front with a Crowley and gold foil. Turned out beautifully.
All recordings happened here in the Steel City. It's the manufacturing, same quality on the whole process. Again, it worked out perfectly. ECP guys, if you're watching this, you're fucking great.
About your 2 albums now, but there are also other extremely talented musicians Would you mind sharing some of your biggest influences with the audience?
I remember you wrote in the script my 3 favorite releases, yeah. But I prefer to answer the question with 3
artists.
no
No.
aspects or experiences.
Okay.
If you ask me for an artist, then I have to mention D.O.L from UK. D.O.L is an own cosmos. Also very impressive. Let's say big influence regarding to music and regarding to industrial music. For me, it was the 90s era of the Japanese noise artist Merzbow. The way he did his noise music back then. Yeah. And seriously impressing for me was one White House live action I may experience in Vienna in 2003. Yeah, this was honestly I don't even have words for. Yeah, so this comes in my mind if you ask me.
Yeah. And Institution D.O.L itself, do you have anything planned for the future?
I already started with a new release. Yeah. The Republic comes in 2027 eventually. This is also the year where Institution D.O.L has its 30th anniversary.
Is there going to be a festival or a live concert of sorts?
Not planned for the moment, no.
But it would be a great occasion.
We will see.
Okay. It's good not to settle on anything before knowing what it's going to be exactly.
Yeah, every production, every work I do costs a lot of time and I invest a lot of time,
Yeah.
energy, and yeah, it takes time. So I'm very focused on the current things. Yeah, but I will go to Norway this summer.
Wow.
I will visit Edge Circle.
I see. So are you going to meet the owner of the label?
Yes, I will.
Is Karaya?
Yeah, this was his artist name when he was a musician in the band Immortal, yes, but for me he's Stian and he's the label boss. And yeah, this summer Bobby B does Norway.
Yeah. Are there going to be field recordings in Norway as well? No.
This is a private thing.
It's really just to maybe also free your head of all the recent work.
It's gonna be a kind of holiday.
Yeah. Shall we get back inside?
Well, yeah, we can go back
To the castle tower.
to the castle tower.
So, where have we been? Agape 93.
Yes, and here we have this wonderful release. Again, a perfect manufacturing. This is such great work. And yeah, as I mentioned downstairs, thanks again to Edge Circle for being that professional and that reliable. And yeah, making this possible.
Don't get me wrong, but isn't Edge Circle Productions mostly known for extreme underground metal?
Yes, it is. It's correct.
So you are the only electronic act on their roster, aren't you?
If you check the roster, then you recognize there's a wide range of yes, extreme music. Most of it is metal, yes, but the label philosophy is very open-minded, but I guess the label boss Stian can explain this with his own words.
I'd say that Ed Circle is definitely not your typical metal label. We don't delve in one type of music like black metal or something. We want to explore darkness in all its myriad forms, and we see beauty in so many different genres, and think that doing it any otherwise would be too limiting for us. And I think our customers appreciate that, and if we can help them open their mind as well to other styles of music, it would be it's good. It's good for us, it's good for them, and we'll see what the future holds.
Considering that Thelema Abbey is now a lost place in very poor condition, would you still recommend others to undertake this pilgrim's journey?
No, why should I? This should not be a recommendation. This is not tourist stuff. This should be in a very personal inner wish, and not a recommendation. It's not a sightseeing thing. So.
Downstairs we were talking about your future plans with Institution D.O.L. Can you get into a little more detail?
Yes, I can. I planned a coming release for 2027 with these two concept albums, the Great Beast 666 chapters closed, and the coming release will sound definitely different again. And
is it more back to the roots of Institution D.O.L?
Not roots, but what I can tell you even now is back to brutality, back to industrial music, and back to power electronics and noise.
That sounds great.